Hello, and welcome to Did You Know Gaming Extra. In this episode, we'll be exploring trivia for the hugely popular, or not so popular depending on where you live, Commodore Amiga. At the time of its release, the Amiga 1000 was one of the most advanced home computers on the market. The system sported a full multitasking operating system, capable of displaying 4096 colours and supporting full stereo sound. All of this at a time when most home PCs were maxing out at 8 colours and still bleeping away with their horrible little internal speaker. It was so groundbreaking, in fact, that in 2006 PC World rated the Amiga 1000 as the 7th greatest PC of all time. But that rating wasn't just for the system's hardware, it was for the software lineup too. One of the system's most memorable games was LucasArts' comedic pirate-based point-and-click adventure, The Secret of Monkey Island. The game had several revisions, and some of them were for reasons you might not expect. A joke existed in early versions of the game where the main character Guybrush could look at a statue in the voodoo shop. If the player used the look at command on the statue, Guybrush would say, "Looks like an emaciated Charles Atlas." LucasArts received a cease and desist letter because of this joke, likely from Charles Atlas Limited, which now represents the famous bodybuilder's brand after his death. As a result, the joke was removed from later versions of the game. Another popular Amiga title was Lemmings. The game was made by DMA Design, who now go by the name Rockstar. While developing Lemmings, DMA also made a level editor for the game based on the interface of the Amiga art package Deluxe Paint. Since the game's artists were already familiar with the interface, using it for the level editor meant they were able to create levels more easily. They'd even compete with one another to create the most difficult level designs they could. Unfortunately, this led to them having a large amount of hard levels, requiring them to go back and design easier ones for the start of the game. If we're showcasing games that defined the Amiga, we'd be doing a bad job of it if we didn't talk about the turn-based tactics game Worms. During the development period of Worms, the game went under the title Total Wormage. The name was parodying another popular game at the time called Total Carnage. Even the title font was similar. The game was made entirely by Andy Davidson in his spare time for fun, and wasn't renamed until Team 17 agreed to publish the title. They were so impressed with the game that they agreed to take it on after just a brief demonstration. Speaking of Team 17, their overhead sci-fi shooter Alien Breed contained not one, but two rather scathing messages buried in the game's files for any would-be pirates. The first reads,
"Stop it now, okay? You will gain nothing from breaking this protection, but I guess you're too ignorant, narrow-minded, or maybe even too stupid to understand that."
Before going on to decry what the writer refers to as leaders and spreaders, calling them nothing but leeches, and closing with,
"The scene today is perverted and led by ignorant, computer-illiterate idiots, only in it for the fame and money. They think they're famous and legendary, but nobody likes or admires them for sure. I hate it! Now I've realized the stupidity of my actions, and I wish I could undo them. You'll also do just that in a few years too if you have a conscience, and wish you had done something else. So don't crack it."
It's unknown for sure who left this message, but it was possibly written by Stefan Boberg, the game's creator, who left a second message. After a self-aggrandizing introduction, referring to himself as a computer god, it reads in part,
"Don't even think about it. Cracking is both illegal and immoral and will get you nowhere in this world. We have spent a lot of time doing this game, and we will not hesitate to take legal actions against those who duplicate this game illegally. We have complete overview over the cracking scene, and know your name and whereabouts, no doubt. We have prepared a nice surprise for you. You may think it is challenging, exciting, or even glorious to crack, but from our point of view it is nothing but theft and sabotage. You may have read or heard all this before, but this time it's different and real. We mean it. Think about it."
He goes on to say,
"If you still insist on being an ignorant, egocentric lowlife and go ahead cracking this, go ahead, try me. It won't be easy. It will be hard, damn close to impossible, destructive, and it will be so damn pointless."
Before finally stating that,
"This protection is the toughest ever, unbreachable."
And signing off as,
"The creator of this, and plenty to come protections, Stefan Boberg."
Stepping away from hidden messages from frustrated developers, You might be surprised to learn that another company that now dominates the tech industry was also involved in the creation of the Amiga. Years before starting work on their own operating system, Microsoft was responsible for writing Amiga Basic. This was a programming language included with early versions of the Amiga OS that allowed programmers easy access to the Amiga's unique graphical and audio capabilities. Compute magazine, a popular programming publication, even included code for Amiga Basic that users could manually enter to compile various games and other programs for free, much as in the early 8-bit era. Unknown to many owners of the Amiga 1000, the computer contains a very unusual Easter egg, not hidden in the software, but instead physically built into the case design. On the inside of each plastic panel are the names of the development team that worked on the system, perhaps the most noteworthy name being J. Miner, often referred to as the father of the Amiga. J. Miner was known for always being accompanied by his dog Michi, a cockapoo who even had her own employee ID badge, and so fittingly, his beloved companion's paw print is also featured. It also seems clear that someone working on the Amiga was a big fan of the well-known new wave band, the B-52s, as many of the motherboards across the different models of the system had the names of different B-52 songs inscribed on them. The A500 had Rock Lobster, the A600 had Junebug, and the A1200 and A590 had Channel Z and Party Mix respectively. This theme ended with the release of the CD32, whose motherboard was instead inscribed with Spellbound, a song by Susie and the Banshees. This was not the only musical connection of the Amiga, however, as in 2007 Calvin Harris released his gold-selling album I Created Disco, including the hit song Acceptable in the 80s, all recorded in a home studio using a then 15-year-old Amiga 1200. The Amiga was also used to create music for games on entirely different platforms. Japanese studio Game Freak, for example, used an Amiga to compose the music for Pokémon Gold and Silver before converting it to the correct format for use on the Game Boy Color. The Amiga has had a number of celebrity fans, including both Dick Van Dyke and Andy Warhol, the latter of whom was even there to demonstrate the impressive graphical power of the first model at its unveiling. One celebrity fan, however, went a step further, being actively involved in developing new software and hardware for the system. Will Wheaton, after finishing his role as Wesley Crusher in Star Trek The Next Generation, went on to work for Newtek and helped to develop the Video Toaster 4000. This was a more advanced version of the Amiga's video editing software and hardware, which was used to produce special effects for TV programs such as The Tonight Show, Sequest, and the first season of Babylon 5. On top of that, the promotional video for the Video Toaster 4000 featured not only Will Wheaton, but also fellow toaster owners Penn Jillette and Tony Hawk. And now it's time for this episode's random piece of trivia. Today, we're going to take a look at the Dragon Ball Z collectible CD picture cards. These were a series of multimedia pocket CD-ROMs released exclusively in Australia in 2001. The odd-shaped discs were compatible with both PC and Macintosh. They were designed and produced by Stream Media Limited, who created 10 versions of the collectible CDs. Each disc featured a different character and was also available randomly in packets and as a promotional giveaway with the purchase of Coca-Cola products. Each disc also contained information on the respective character on the label, as well as the info on each Dragon Ball Z saga up to the Cell saga. They also had information on merchandise and featured a battle print activity mode, which let the user arrange art assets to make a scene. Despite saying DBZ Set 1 on the packaging, no additional series were ever released.
thank you to the always wonderful Mr. Stuart Ashens for supplying his voice for this video. We do certainly love him. He brings a certain British charm that Greg and I often fail to produce. And just remember, spreading a little love never hurt nobody, so why not spread some love today? Maybe make a little love sandwich, a little love risotto, perhaps even a love pizza. I do love me some pizza.